Prescription products require completion of an online medication consultation with an independent healthcare provider through the LifeMD platform and are only available if prescribed. Subscription required. Individual results may vary. Additional restrictions apply at lifemd.com. Read all warnings before using GLP-1s. Side effects may include a risk of thyroid C-cell tumors. Do not use GLP-1s if you or your family have a history of thyroid cancer.
If you've struggled for years to lose weight and have given up hope, did you know you can now access GLP-1 prescription medications through LifeMD? LifeMD is now offering eligible patients online access to GLP-1s, the breakthrough prescription medication that can help you lose body fat and weight. Listen to what people are saying.
You just take your shot. It doesn't feel like you're on a diet. What I wasn't expecting it to do was to shut off the food noise. This was life-altering, and if I can do it, I feel like anybody can do it.
And here's the best part. Your insurance may cover 100% of the cost of your medication. So go to trylifemd.com to have your eligibility checked right now. Get started today at trylifemd.com. That's TRYLIFEMD.com.
You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Archaeology Show. TAS goes behind the headlines to bring you the real stories about archaeology and the history around us. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Archaeology Show, episode 257.
On today's show, we talk about the archaeology of Arizona's Verde Valley.
Let's dig a little deeper, but don't fall in the well. I don't know.
You got your well joke in?
Well, I don't know. This is a deep subject. We better move on.
These are getting longer and longer.
Well, it's a deep subject for a shallow mind.
Oh, burn! Whose mind is shallow? Yours, for sure.
Definitely mine. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Backcountry Nevada.
Yeah, this is Backcountry Nevada, isn't it? We are, as is more often than not when we're recording this podcast, I feel like.
Yeah.
We're at a rest stop on the side of the highway. It's cool.
Yeah.
Somewhere between Vegas and Reno.
Yeah. It's a road we've traveled a lot. Highway 95, or US 95, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go stretches without seeing anything, and then sometimes you go 100 miles with a semi crawling up your butt.
Yep.
Yeah, because he can't pass you because you're a big RV.
It can be very uncomfortable to drive this road. And when you're in a little car, you spend your whole time passing.
Right.
And it's also equally uncomfortable because it's so scary to pass on these roads.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, we're on our way up to Reno, where we lived for a while, and we have friends, and we're going to stay for a few weeks. And for all of those people thinking, because we went through Vegas to get here, all those people thinking, oh, you must just go down to Vegas all the time. No, we started in Nevada this morning near Hoover Dam. And then it's a good 7 hours from there, if not 8, to get to Reno.
Yes. It is a long, long drive.
And that's all through Nevada.
Yep. Middle of nowhere, Nevada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we went to Nevada, we were in Arizona.
We were.
Yeah, and we were kind of stuck there, held hostage by RV repair.
We were in that RV repair parking lot for way too long.
Way too long.
Yeah, but, that's part of the lifestyle, and sometimes you have to get stuff done.
Right.
What it did do is give us the opportunity to visit at least one national monument that we didn't think we were going to have time to do. And that combined with one that we managed to visit when we were there, I guess that was in January. Mm-hmm. We now have like a little collection of these really cool places in Arizona that we thought would be really fun to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the 3 that we're going to talk about here are all up north of Phoenix near Cottonwood, Arizona.
Yeah.
The Verde Valley, they call that.
Yes.
So it's a really cool area. It's between, like I said, Phoenix and Flagstaff. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of that area that, this time of year gets a little cold at night and could get some snow occasionally. Flagstaff gets quite a bit of snow.
Yeah.
Phoenix gets no snow.
Yeah.
And this is kind of somewhere in the middle.
In between.
Yeah. You're literally climbing a hill all the way to Cottonwood.
Yeah.
Or coming down if you're coming to Phoenix.
Right.
So, and there's also great wine out there. It's an American viticultural area as of, I think, 20, 30 years ago or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also like other cute towns too. Not just like there's Cottonwood, which is a place that we've been to a bunch, but also just a little ways from there in between Cottonwood and Flagstaff is Sedona. I'm sure everybody's heard of that.
Yeah.
Got those like iconic red rocks and cliffs going on there.
Also, if you need your chakras aligned, just drive by the Starbucks.
That is a thing there too. So
yeah.
And then if you go the other direction out of Cottonwood, you get to this really cool mining town way up in the mountains above the valley called Jerome. So lots of really cool towns, a cool vibe in this area. It's become one of my favorite places in Arizona. So it was a little shocking to me that it's a place we've been a bunch of times now. And this is the first time we've been to like the national monuments in the area. And these national monuments are for the Native American sites that are really, really significant in this area.
Yeah. Before we get to that real quick, though, I'm really sad we didn't get back to Jerome.
I know.
Because Jerome is a mining town, and they did subsurface, adit and shaft mining there. And almost because of that, the mining food that was invented in England, in Cornwall in England, is called the Cornish pasty. And it's just like this pocket of, pastry with stuff inside of it. And there's a Cornish pasty place up on the hill there that is just
it was so good,
ridiculous.
It's like hipster Cornish pasties, right? Like they had a Thanksgiving one, I think, right? They had a curry one, which was so good. Super random. But if you happen to go through Jerome and need a nice warm meal, it was 20 degrees when we were there. It was so cold, and it was delicious.
You know who wasn't cold?
Well,
the southern Sinagua people at Tuzigoot, because of their apartments that they lived in.
They might have been a little bit cold. It's not warm there all the time, but
but they had a good thing going on. Yeah.
So the first national monument we're going to talk about is Tuzigoot National Monument. And this one is located just northwest of the Cottonwood, Arizona area that we were just talking about. And like we said, we love it there. So I can't believe this is the first time that we went. But it was really cool.
Well, and it's also real easy to get to. Like there's some of these national parks, there's a lot of hiking, there's a lot of, driving around different places. This thing is literally one thing and it's on a hill, and the visitor center is literally built next to it. Yeah.
I mean, to experience it, you really only need an hour or two, because even if you stop and read every sign, it's not going to take that long. So
So Tuzigoot was built by the southern Sinagua people between 1000 and 1400 CE. Well, it was built by them probably around 1000, and then they maintained it and
added to it.
Added to it. And then we'll talk about this later, but they left around 1400 CE.
Yeah.
So.
And it's on a ridge that is sort of overlooking the Verde Valley too. Yeah. So it's not on the valley floor. It's up a little ways.
Yeah.
So just talking about what Verde Valley would have looked like to sort of prehistoric peoples, because there's a long history of occupation in this area. It would have been, and there's Paleolithic occupation as well. And it would have been a little cooler and a little wetter back then. And it would have been greener, which is funny because it's called Verde Valley, but it would have been greener, and it would have had a lot of pinyon pine, shrub, live oak, and juniper. Yeah.
There's a lot of like scrub brush and sage and stuff like that out there. Just not a lot. So
it's definitely not as green as it used to be back in those times. And we do know that there were Paleolithic like hunter-gatherer type groups there, because there have been a handful of Clovis points that are found in and around the valley area. So that would be your 10,000-ish years ago, 10 to 12.
8 to 10.
Yeah,
give or take.
Something like that.
Yeah. The first permanent settlements in this area, according to archaeological evidence, begins around 700 to 900 CE, when the Hohokam farmers from the south moved into the valley. There's a ton of Hohokam stuff down near like Tucson and that whole area, southern Arizona.
Yep.
A lot of that. So they moved up here and, started doing some other stuff.
Yeah, their iconic structure that they do is called a pit house. It's like a partially buried dwelling where they sort of dig out into the ground a little ways, and then they build this structure over the top of it.
Yeah.
And you do find the remains of some of those like Hohokam style dwellings in the valley, which is how they know that they were probably the ones that were there in that time frame, 700 to 900.
Yeah. You start seeing those pit houses all around the Phoenix, Tucson area, southern Arizona, central Arizona, beginning about 4,000 years ago on up to about 600 years ago.
Yeah, so they used them for a really long time.
Yeah.
But the people that built Tuzigoot were different. They migrated from somewhere else probably, and they were just a different group of people, because they weren't doing this pit house style thing. They started doing these multi-room pueblos, and that's what you see at Tuzigoot. And that one in particular was built, they started building it around 1000 CE.
Yeah.
And that was the Sinagua people that we're talking about.
Yep. The Sinagua people were split into two groups in this area, the northern Sinagua in Flagstaff and the southern Sinagua in the Verde Valley area. And the name comes from Sierra Sin Agua, which was given to the nearby peaks by early Spanish explorers. It was shortened to Sinagua by Harold S. Colton in 1939 when he assigned it to the group that lived in this area. And that's not what they called themselves, of course, but that's the name that stuck from a historical archaeological standpoint, I don't think we know what they called themselves. No, there's no way we would.
There's no way we would know. There's no like written records from that time period, and no like oral history to tell us what their name was. Nothing that we have for that. So. And I thought it was really funny, too, that the Spanish explorers called it Sierra Sinagua. I guess the mountains don't have a lot of water in them, but down in the valley, like where the people lived, there's quite a bit of water. And and going farther back, you do get colder, you do get wetter. Yeah.
I mean, aside from this one period we'll talk about. Yeah. And maybe that's what caused this. But generally, those mountains get quite a bit of snow.
Yeah,
so,
they do.
I don't know.
Yeah, so a lot of snow melt is coming down into the valley for sure. So these like multi-room structures were built all across the Southwest by different cultures and different peoples. Mm-hmm. And they are sort of broadly similar, but there are regional differences and distinctions. And I thought this was really interesting because it kind of shows a connection between all of these different groups of people and at the same time period too. Some of the other ones that are very similar are like in New Mexico, and we've been to a couple of these places. Bandelier National Monument.
Been there.
Yep. The Aztec Ruins National Monument.
Don't think we've been there.
I don't think we've been to that one. And the Chaco Culture National Historical Park, which we also have been to.
Otherwise known as Chaco Canyon.
Chaco Canyon. Yeah. So... And we've been there. We've seen these places. And so from our own memories, we can remember they do look a little different from what we saw here at Tuzigoot and over at Montezuma Castle, which we're going to talk about next. But same idea, slightly different structures, basically.
Either way, I think the one commonality amongst all these, and we'll talk about a few other states too, but the one commonality is the rooms are all joined together. It really is an apartment complex. It would have been... I can't imagine it would have been quiet. Just from conversations, it would have been probably pretty noisy.
Yeah,
but,
probably.
You know, I would assume that, everybody kind of probably went to bed at the same time, because why are you going to stay up late? Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, they had fires.
Yeah.
They could have stayed up later if they wanted to, but what's the point?
Yeah.
So anyway, in Colorado, you've all probably heard of, at least people in this country, in the United States, have heard of Mesa Verde National Park, another one that is a glaring omission on our national park list.
We haven't been there. That's shocking.
There's Yucca House National Monument, which I'm not sure that I've heard of.
No.
And the Canyons of the Ancients, which I have heard of, and I'm pretty sure we haven't been there either.
No, I don't think we've been there. We haven't done a lot of time in Colorado. That is something that we're going to have to rectify here in the next some time frame that I'm not going to name because who knows when it'll happen.
Yeah. No. Two more in Arizona that we've been to are Wupatki and Walnut Canyon National Monuments. We've definitely been there. Although I remember when we went to Walnut Canyon, there was a big boulder over the path and you could only go out from the visitor center. You couldn't go down the path into the canyon.
Right. You couldn't. Yeah, that's right. So we should probably give that one another visit at some point too. We're not in Arizona anymore, though. That's weird. We were in Arizona yesterday. We're not now, so.
Well, we were kind of in Arizona this morning, too.
Yeah, we were
when
on
we
the
stepped
border.
over the line at Hoover Dam.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, there's also Pulaski, Sacred Mountain, and then Montezuma Castle.
Yeah.
So all in Arizona.
Yeah. So lots of places to go check out this kind of architecture if you're interested in the sort of southwest-ish area. And like we said, this tells us that these groups were in communication with each other. They traveled between the different communities. They traded between them. And as you might expect, when people are sharing information like that, the construction trends were also shared. And that's why, that sort of similar conjoined building style was popular.
Now, Tuzigoot was the biggest one we've ever seen.
Yeah,
Mesa
definitely.
Verde is much bigger, I believe. But it's also cliff dwellings, too.
Chaco Canyon is way big, but in a different way.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Pueblo Bonito at Chaco Canyon is the biggest one.
Yeah.
And that's definitely bigger than Tuzigoot, I would say.
I would think so. Yeah.
But either way, it's built in the same style.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, Pueblo Bonito was, I think I remember seeing 3 to 4 floors.
Yeah, I think so.
In some cases, yeah.
Yeah.
But Tuzigoot was built in 4 phases, they think, and it has 87 ground floor rooms, all built on this little hill, like a little fortified hill, like we built a fort on today, and then there were about 23 second-story rooms, and they think it could have housed about 225 people at the height of its occupation.
Yeah. And one of the craziest things to me about it is that we're walking around, seeing these really cool walls, and I'm like, where are the doors?
Yeah.
How did people get in and out of this? And doing more research, they didn't use doors, not really. There's occasionally an exterior door here or there, and we saw a couple when we were there, but they almost always used entry by ladder through the roof.
Yeah.
Which is such an unusual method. It's just crazy. I love that. It's so different, but it's really cool.
And I was thinking about that too. And I think I mean, it might just be stylistic. That's how they started doing it. So that's how they were doing it. But, you know, we might think, where's our windows and things like that. But we also have really good, well-insulated windows.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a way to make a window or to cover a window. And so
Yeah.
if you're going to deal with wind and cold and all that stuff, it's much easier to seal up your structure by having just a hole in the roof.
Yeah.
And then also your fire smoke can go out that hole. And you can... You know, with the mud brick sort of walls, it would have stayed cool in the summertime.
Yeah,
ish.
true.
And then you could have kept it warm by having a fire inside in the wintertime. And you didn't have to worry about any sort of snow coming in and all that stuff. Just cover up the one hole. So,
Yeah, that's probably pretty efficient.
Yeah.
But it does make me think, like, if you're under attack, how do you close that hole in the roof and protect yourself, right?
I'm not sure that, I think as a last defense, you would be, you know, down inside your hole there. Probably the women and children, to be honest with you. But everybody else is out fighting the attack.
Yeah.
So,
well,
you know.
I guess invasion then would maybe be a better word. It makes me think that this was a mostly peaceful society, probably. If they didn't have to worry about that, then, you know, they could build their structures to not be too protective in that way. So, and since they were so cooperative with the groups around them, then maybe that wasn't really something they had to worry about too much. Who knows?
Yeah.
They also had a really great, clear line of sight in every direction on the ridge and of the valley below. So that would have been really great from a protection standpoint. And then the valley below also provided water, soil for crops like cotton and corn. So it was a very bountiful area as far as that goes. Really a good location.
Excavation showed evidence that the Tuzigoot community traded across the Southwest from the Colorado Plateau as far south as Central America and as far west as the Pacific coast.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean they went to these places and traded. That just means that there was a trade network of people trading adjacently, and, you know, somebody would find something cool and then, you know, use that as currency basically and trade it along. And then something from the Pacific coast or Central America could make it all the way here
in Arizona, central Arizona, basically. Yeah. So some of the things that they found during the excavation were many, many different pottery styles from all over the Southwest. Every kind you can think of, the black on white and I think it's black on yellow, and like just all kinds of different types. So that clearly showed that they were trading amongst their local people. Yeah.
They also found a bunch of obsidian from Mexican volcanoes, and obsidian can be chemically sourced.
Right.
So if you've got a database of obsidian chemical fingerprints, basically, which there are databases like that around, then you can test it and say, oh, this had to come from this volcano. It's like a fingerprint, which is pretty cool. And they also had feathers from macaws also found in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only found in Mexico, right?
Yeah,
like
only found. Yeah, there's no macaws in Arizona.
No. So, yeah, that's crazy. And then the coast was represented by seashells. Yeah. And I think they're assuming from the Pacific coast. I don't know if that is from the species of shell, so they knew that, or if it was just the closest coast, so that's what they're guessing. But yeah, there's no sea in Arizona, so.
Well, there used to be.
Well, yeah. So. Not in, 1100.
Well, no.
So.
Yeah. But shells don't really go away. There could be shells from 100 million years ago there, so.
Well, it's not,
that's how limestone's made too.
Right, so, but I don't think it's that kind of
I'm
shell.
just saying.
So.
Shells.
Yeah. Now, they would have had to export something in order to be trading stuff like this, right? So the things that they were exporting were minerals like azurite, copper, and malachite. And then they also had salt, cotton, and textiles that they would have been exporting.
Yeah. So by about 1400... Tuzigoot was no longer occupied.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this in segment 3, but there was basically nobody there that we have evidence for. Now, that's shocking. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I also want to point out that for 400 years, this structure housed people, and they maintained it. They did different things. And then it sat for, another 600, 700 years until now when we're looking at it. And it's still there. It's still around. I mean, how many people are living in a house right now that's going to be around in 400 years? Probably no one.
Totally.
Yeah.
The thing that struck me about that is that they always emphasize the abandonment, right? Like all of a sudden they were here and they were living and they were building. The latest evidence of building is like 1380, right? And then 20 years later, they just abandoned it. Why would they walk away? But I'm like you said, you can't, like the 200 to 400 years before that, that's what really matters. it's like you might renovate your home and then move away 5 years later, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you just abandoned it 5 years later. It just means that you were working on it and making it better and improving it to suit your life. And then when you were done with it, you moved on. So I think I don't think it was as abrupt as it might seem.
Yeah.
You know, we'll talk about it more in segment 3, but I don't think it was that abrupt, you know, so that's all.
Yeah. Now, when I said the building was lasting, to be fair, by the 1900s, most of the walls had collapsed. But,
yes.
you know, a lot of it was still, you know, still kind of there, enough that we could tell what it looked like.
Yeah,
right?
definitely. There was something for them to excavate. And that excavation happened from 1933 to 35 by Lewis Cawood and Edward Spicer from the University of Arizona.
Yeah.
And that is also where the Tuzigoot name comes from. Tuzigoot is a sort of corruption of the Tonto Apache name Tudiges or Diges. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. But either way, it became Tuzigoot. And that was the Apache name for the Verde River. And it's usually translated as crooked water. So that's where that comes from.
All right.
And like you were saying, it did last, but it took some excavation to uncover it and show what it could be. And there's a really cool before and after picture on the link where you have this little slider and you slide it back and forth. It shows pre-excavation and post-excavation. And pre-excavation, if you weren't an archaeologist or had some knowledge that there was a structure there, you almost can't even see it.
Right.
So it was definitely buried under a lot of soil, and it took some excavation to uncover it. I think they did some reconstruction as well back in the 30s, because that was like, you know, a thing they did before they realized they shouldn't do that. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is where all the peasants lived. We'll find out where the noble elite lived on the other side of the break. That's just a joke.
That's not accurate.
Don't write in. Do not write in. Back in a minute.
Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ12. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ12. Terms and conditions apply.
Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Welcome back to episode 257 of the Archaeology Show. And we're talking about some national park adventures that we had in northern Arizona. And the next one is Montezuma Castle, the poorly named Montezuma Castle.
It is
It was neither related to Montezuma nor a castle.
No.
So
no, we can just jump right into that. It was the early settlers basically figured it must have been built by the Aztec because it's such a complete and perfect looking structure. And I guess nobody had seen that in the southwest of the United States, so they thought it must have come from Aztec people. I don't know. Anyway, it was a wrong assumption that a lot of people at that time period made about Native Americans, and but the name stuck. So I guess it is what it is.
Yeah, it's located north of a little town called Camp Verde on the eastern side of Interstate 17, which runs between Phoenix and Flagstaff, like we talked about before. This is on the other side from Cottonwood. Cottonwood's on the west side. This is on the east side of that highway. And there's also a bunch of cool little wineries down in this area, too.
There is, yeah. It's a really cute little area.
Yeah.
Seems like it had a lot of like early settler activity there as well. So,
yeah.
Montezuma Castle was built by the Southern Sinagua people, which is the same people that built Tuzigoot. Not the exact same people, but they were probably related in some way. They certainly shared information and
they definitely knew about each other.
Yeah, they for sure did. And the architectural style is a little bit different, obviously, because Montezuma Castle, if you haven't seen it before, go look at the pictures right now. Stop what you're doing. It is so cool. We'll put some in the show notes that we took, but
some links.
Yeah.
I guess some pictures.
Yeah, we can put some pictures on the show notes page. But it's a collection of rooms built into the side of a cliff wall.
Yeah.
It looks like it's hanging in space. It's just so cool and so imposing looking when you walk up to it.
Yeah, they're cliff dwellings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're called. That's what they're called. So just like Mesa Verde and other places, except on a slightly smaller scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one is a 20-room high-rise apartment built into the side of a limestone cliff. So
yeah,
it's
high-rise
pretty
apartment
cool.
is the best description for it. Except that the bottom of it doesn't touch the ground.
Right.
Like it starts high and it goes higher from there. So yeah.
The 20 rooms are spread across several stories and would have housed several families. And you have a note here that we counted 5 stories. I can't remember,
I think
but
either 4 or 5 we counted because you can't go in it or up to it.
Right.
It's, I mean, for lots of reasons, the National Park Service has it fenced off. But
there was a lot of vandalism happening a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think it was, didn't they say back in like the 40s or something, they closed it off to traffic? It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, yeah.
But a cool thing is on the path kind of leading around there, they built this diorama at that time, and it's still there. That is a, somewhat of a replica of what it looks like with the wall there, and then it has little people there.
Yeah, like a cross section, so you can look inside of it, basically.
Exactly, because they weren't allowing people to go in anymore because of vandalism and just the sensitive nature of the walls and stuff.
It was probably unsafe, and I could see it being really easy to fall. In fact, I'm not sure how you would have a child in that structure. Well,
you carry them up until they're ready to climb the ladders themselves.
Yeah, obviously. It just seems like super scary and unsafe, but yeah.
But yeah, sort of like Tuzigoot, where you climb down the roof in a ladder. In these, you climbed up, and there would have been a lower ladder just to get up to like a little platform, and then ladders basically taking you all the way to the different levels.
Yeah, but it was kind of a similar thing where there's not like doors so much as it is like ladder access into all of these places. Yeah. And it was 100 feet above the valley. So, ladders were definitely a necessity to get in and out of this place. I can't imagine that they would be able to just like climb by hand. I guess maybe.
I mean, it didn't look that hard, to be honest with you. But if you've got like a basket full of stuff on your back or something, you're probably going to take the ladder.
Yeah. So. And limestone is soft too. So it could break pretty easily too if you're trying to.
Yeah. Some limestone is. Yeah.
Yeah. This limestone is. Yeah. It said in the description. So yeah. It overlooks a really pretty creek that we got to see while we were walking around. It kind of meanders along. It's called Beaver Creek. And the biggest question that is kind of unanswered is why in the world would they go to the effort of building this really beautiful and well-constructed structure into the side of a cliff? I mean, they built it, 700 years ago? 800 years ago?
Yeah.
And it still looks almost perfect today. So it's well constructed. It really did its job, obviously, to still be standing now. So why do it?
Yeah, so one reason may have been because it faces south, and the southern rooms would have been kept warmer in the winter because the sun was shining them all the time. But because of the walls, just like a Tuzigoot, it still would have been relatively cool in the summer. You got a whole, basically a little cavern behind you.
Yeah.
So, that naturally is going to stay a little bit cooler.
Yep.
And you make your own shade too with those structure walls and things like that.
Yep.
Also, maybe to protect their dwellings from the annual flooding of Beaver Creek. They didn't want them down there, but they wanted to be close to the water.
Yep.
For animals and, plants and things like that.
And they probably took advantage of that annual flooding for whatever agriculture they were doing down on the valley floor there. I believe cotton in particular needs a lot of water. So the irrigation that they would have been able to do because of that creek would have been very important.
Yeah, there also would have been an obvious strategic advantage being up that high, as long as you can defend it. Otherwise, you're kind of penned in and have nowhere to go.
Yeah, you better have enough supplies to hang on if you do get attacked. But gosh, it really does seem like these were mostly peaceful groups of people, though, because it doesn't seem like protection was their first thought when they were building things. So yeah. The structures themselves were built with local materials like you would think, including wood, local stone, and mud mortar. And the limestone cliffs are soft and would split pretty easily. So it would have been fairly easy to remove material as needed to sort of carve out the space that they were using for their rooms that they were constructing.
Yeah, they used the natural caves, overhangs, nooks in the cliff, and things like that around them to build and create the rooms and to find like the optimal location where they could, make something decent. Because if you got just like a couple little nooks and crannies and you put a wall in front of that, you're just kind of flat up against the wall. And what good is that?
Yeah.
Maybe for storage or something, but you're not going to live in there. So yeah.
And they did it all over this cliffside too. Like there's the main castle, quote unquote castle, that you see when you're walking up. And I don't know about you, but when we were walking up, I almost like, I was just sort of like walking along, looking at the trees, whatever. And then all of a sudden I looked to my right and like, it's this imposing, I see why they call it a castle. It's this imposing structure, just like coming out of the wall. It's really cool. But when you walk a little bit further down, there's a spot where this little like information sign tells you to look up and look for a wall, and you see one, and it sort of seems to be on its own kind of further down from the castle, but it is clearly a constructed wall. So yeah, it's like, was there another larger structure that is gone now, or were they just throwing little walls into the side of the cliff wherever they could to make storage rooms and stuff like that?
I mean, no, but I'm sure there could have been storage rooms, like you said, but maybe, maybe some people just wanted to live off by themselves. Some rambunctious teenager was like, you know what? I want to build a wall over here.
Screw you, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
I need my own space.
Yeah. You won't let me use the phone. I can't, I just feel stifled.
Yeah, you're mean.
I know.
I'm going over here now. Yeah, maybe.
That was Gen negative Z. Yes. So.
Yeah. Who knows? Or maybe it was somebody that was older and just didn't want to live in the community. Maybe it was a place for like a lookout to go and have like a protected spot to hang out while they were looking out for whatever a lookout would need to be watching for in that circumstance. So I guess that's a possibility too. But yeah, anyway, those little walls were all over.
Yeah, one of the reasons this was a national park is because this current structure that we're talking about is one of the best preserved examples of this type of architecture, and because it was so, well constructed and because it's naturally protected.
Yeah.
So it was just a good thing. They weren't without danger for the inhabitants, though.
Yeah, so Montezuma Castle is the one up in the wall, right?
Yeah.
But there is another castle called Castle A, and that was actually located at the base of the cliff, a short distance past where Montezuma Castle was. And we saw this too. We walked towards it. I think it's a bit reconstructed these days.
Some of it is, but most of it's gone.
Yeah, most of it's gone. You can see some of the walls where they were there, and like the man-made walls against the natural walls. You can see a little bit. Yeah. But it was once a large structure, much bigger than the one that is there now, with 45 rooms and 5 stories. So it was huge. Yeah. But their best guess as to what happened to it is that there was a fire at some point that destroyed the structure, and it's just gone now. There's nothing to even excavate, not really. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do have more questions about that. I found it hard to find information about Castle A. They barely even mention it on the National Park Service website, and there just wasn't a lot of other resources that I could find. So yeah, I am interested to know though, because you could see what looked like almost like carbon staining on the cliff wall, and I'm like, well, is that where the fire thing is coming from? And if so, was it after people had already abandoned this structure, or was it while people were still living there? Can we tell what kind of excavation has been done? I just have lots of questions. I want to know more about Castle A, and I wasn't finding that in the bit of research I did, which admittedly was not like super deep. So I would love to know more about that.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, we mentioned in the beginning that the misnomer of Montezuma Castle and why that was. We kind of jumped the gun on that because we had this note at the end here tied to this note that says, well, you looked into some research and actually Montezuma, that person had lived more
He's
than
an Aztec leader.
An Aztec leader,
Aztec
right.
Leader, yeah.
The people had moved on from this site more than 40 years before he was even born. Yeah. Yeah. So literally had nothing to do with it.
Had nothing to do with this site. Yeah. It was just a European thing.
Or
European
prophecy.
People coming in. I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
So, and as with Tuzigoot, the structure does seem to have been abandoned by 1400 CE as well. And now there's another component to Montezuma Castle called Montezuma Well. And when we come back, we will talk more about that. Back in a minute.
We need a better segue.
That was my first time. I just kind of went into it.
I know. I had something good planned, and then you just kind of did it. Oh, you did?
Okay, do yours.
No, it's done.
No, I'm going to leave it all in. Do yours.
No.
Do it.
Well, no, I'm done.
Oh, God.
Back in a minute.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ12. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ12. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Montezuma's Archaeology Show.
Montezuma's?
Montezuma's?
Who's Montezuma?
Montezuma. All right. Well, now, so if you've got a castle, you need a source of water. So that's why they've made Montezuma's well.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah, that's why.
And does Montezuma own this well?
Montezuma owned this well. Prophecy said that
who hasn't been born yet.
Right. Prophecy said that he would need a place to, bathe and get his irrigation water. So
I understand.
Actually,
did you want to go on Ancient Aliens now and start?
Right. Yeah. It's not Ancient Aliens. It's Ancient Aztecs. All right. Yeah, and Sinaguans. All right. So anyway.
Yes, Montezuma well.
Right. This is a subunit of Montezuma Castle, the National Park.
National Monument.
Yeah. And is located about 15 to 20 minutes north of here, about 11 miles away. So it's not like you could get there in an easy day walking.
No, that's a long day of walking for sure. It certainly wouldn't have been a daily source of water for this group.
But they had a river in front of them anyway. So
right, and as we'll get to in a minute, it seems like it was yet another community of these people that lived around the well. So but it was kind of an oasis in the middle of the desert. It's fed by these continuously flowing springs that are the result of like snow melt out of the mountains, basically. It's surrounded by lush vegetation. There's wildlife. It's just this like beautiful little oasis, and you can see why people were drawn there. It was cool water, shade. In the summer, it would have been probably pretty lovely.
So how Montezuma Well was created was basically water drains down from rain and snow in the Mogollon Rim north of the well, which is just a mountain range up there. Takes the path of least resistance, as water tends to do, until it reaches a vertical wall of volcanic basalt underneath the well. This acts like a dam, forcing the water back toward the surface. Over time, this eroded a cavern underground until finally the roof caved in and created the pond that is there today.
There you go. Quick and dirty geology.
Yeah.
And every day the well is replenished with about 1.5 million gallons of new water. Yeah. And you might be thinking, because if you go and look at the pictures, that pond does not hold a daily influx of 1.5 million gallons of new water. Right. And what happens is the water overflows through kind of a long, narrow subterranean cave. And because it has this outlet, but it's an outlet, a funnel outlet, basically. Again, it's acting like a dam, right? And it keeps the pond essentially the same size, but it gives a relief or an outflow for the water, so it has somewhere to go. Right.
I'm actually kind of surprised that you wrote 1.5 million gallons because terrestrial measurements are usually done in football fields in this area, and water things are usually done in Olympic swimming pools. So how many Olympic swimming pools did it actually hold?
1.5 million gallons? I have no idea.
Yeah. Hey Siri,
need to look that up.
Hey Siri, how many Olympic swimming pools is 1.5 million gallons of water? Siri's stupid. She doesn't know.
That's annoying. Yeah. But that didn't even come through your microphone.
And it did not. All right. So she said she doesn't know to look at my phone. Thanks, Siri, for that.
Yeah, very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Southern Sinagua people used this whole thing to create irrigation ditches and use the water to irrigate their crops from those ditches.
In the well area, there are several prehistoric structures, including an excavated pit house that dates to about 1050 CE. It sounds like that is one of the older structures in the well area. And then there's also a couple other pueblos, those conjoined buildings, and then cliff dwellings too. I saw pictures of cliff dwellings, very similar to Montezuma Castle, but just smaller. 1 room, 2 room, 3 room kind of deals, right? And there's a couple different areas where there's these dwellings, and they're various sizes, and they date from around 1125 to 1400 CE, and approximately 100 to 150 people would have lived here during this time. So smaller, but still significant, right?
They were known as the keepers of the well. I made that up completely.
Yes, you did.
Although, living around a resource like this, I'm willing to bet that they kind of were keepers of the well.
Probably,
They're the ones, if you lived there, you would have been in control of it.
You find this amazing resource in the middle of a desert, and you control it, you protect it, and it is your home. And they definitely used it. I mean, the irrigation canals that they built, or irrigation ditches, you can still see them today. So again, their amazing construction techniques have survived the test of time.
Right. The prehistory of this area is obviously being really close by is very similar to Tuzigoot and Montezuma Castle. I mean, it's literally the same people. You know, the same cultural group, I should say.
Yeah.
And then they had the same fate too. They, for whatever reason, stopped living there around 1400. We'll talk about that a little bit here at the end. But the next people to really see this were European settlers named Wales and Jenny Arnold.
Yeah.
Wales?
Wales. I don't know. I guess that's his name. Sure. Yeah.
Right. They used the prehistoric ditches to irrigate their own land.
Yeah. Why not? Right.
Yeah,
it was there already. And so the land sort of jumped around a bit, and eventually it landed in the hands of William and Marjorie Back in 1889. And they are the enterprising souls who, eventually got it to the National Park Service. But they operated a ranch, farm, and orchard, and they realized how cool the well was, and they ended up turning it into a tourist attraction.
Right. Yeah, they charged for tours, displayed artifacts, had a picnic area, as well as later adding a campground, a resort where guests could stay, and a Starbucks. So I thought that last part was pretty cool. Yeah, that's a joke. There's no Starbucks there.
No, there's not.
Don't
but
write.
I bet if it was still around today, there probably would be.
Don't write letters.
Yeah. They even tried to stock the well with fish, but I guess the fish died as soon as they were introduced. Whatever is in this well was not conducive to fish surviving. So yeah,
I wonder if down in these lower well environments, they might not have a lot of oxygen in them. Fish still need oxygen in that, like an oxygenated sort of, those kind of fish do. Right? There's plenty of fish that live way down deep in the ocean that don't really need that.
Yeah.
So,
and this is water that's melting out of the mountains, right? So I don't know what it's got in it when it gets to the well stage, but it's just probably not conducive to fish that are in a more natural aquatic environment, I guess.
Yeah, in 1943, they agreed to sell the land to the government, but as is usual, there was probably some kind of government shutdown, and there was no funding. Actually, there was a huge world war going on, so money wasn't being put necessarily towards national parks or monuments. So it didn't happen until 1947.
I just thought that whole story was so funny, though, because you hear about so many places of importance in the United States being donated to the government after somebody dies or whatever.
Yeah.
Not William and Marjorie, though. They got to make a buck off of this, attraction that they've built a business around. So they sold it to the United States government. Yes. It is what it is.
You can still see Billy and Marge's
Billy and Marge.
The picnic areas and the historic Back Ranch House.
Yeah.
So.
The irrigation canal, I believe, is still the prehistoric one that has been used by all the settlers.
Yeah.
And, so yeah.
I'm sure they probably had to, refresh it a bit.
Yeah, probably.
With 400 years, 500 years of growth in it. So,
right.
Yeah. The area is still considered sacred by many local tribes, which is not too surprising.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still lush, cool haven in an otherwise dry desert. And, a lot of Native American groups hang on to their cultural identity and their cultural history by, having these culturally significant areas become, places that are sacred today to them. So
they can focus their energy and their, community towards a place like this. Yeah.
Yeah. They're called in the archaeology world TCPs, tribal cultural properties. And a TCP can be just about anything from a well like this to not even a well. I mean, this is a pond to a mountain range.
Yeah. Or like Devil's Tower, right? Isn't that considered one by the native groups up there? Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah. Well, as we have talked about several times over the course of this podcast, the southern Sinagua people were gone by about 1400 CE from this well area as well. They took off. We don't really know why, but we have some ideas, and we're going to go through those now here at the end of this podcast, and we'll start with what some of the different Native American clans say, because we're talking about a time frame that is 700 years ago, right? 600 years ago. So there's a potential for oral histories to be handed down from some of these groups. That's not so long ago that it's not possible that we have a good oral history. So I love the Hopi story. Some of the Hopi clans believe that the Sinagua were actually their ancestors, and that the Verde Valley villages were stops in a much longer migration to the Hopi mesas that we know today. And they were never really intended to be permanent settlements. So that's sort of the Hopi story. And I love that because that's entirely possible. That puts a lot of like forethought into the way the people were migrating. Like they always intended to be where the Hopi are today. And I don't know if we can know that for sure, but it is still a story that makes sense in some ways.
Yeah, some of the Yavapai Apache tribes that are around today say that not all the Sinagua left, but instead integrated with the Yavapai and the Apache that are there today. Makes sense. Last couple hundred years. Yeah. Which, if I had to guess, is probably more likely the story. Yeah. So
makes complete sense, right? Yeah. And then some Yavapai also say that their ancestors left the pueblos and farms for a more mobile lifestyle of hunting and gathering. And I feel like that kind of makes sense too, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah. The Zuni say that some people remain behind, whether because they couldn't travel or chose not to leave. So,
and I'm not really sure what they where they went from there. Maybe they became the Zuni tribes as they are today, I guess, probably. Today, the monuments are affiliated with many tribes, including those 4 that we just mentioned: Yavapai, Apache, Hopi, and Zuni. Yeah. Now, there is some other evidence that kind of ties in with some of these stories, right? So it could be that people left because of climate change. And we've talked about this before, but the 1300s was a crazy time in this country. And the medieval warm period was ending and the Little Ice Age was beginning. So it was getting colder and drought was happening in the Southwest specifically. So this climate change could have influenced a change back to a more mobile and flexible hunter-gatherer lifestyle, because the agriculture that they had become used to just wasn't really working given the climate change that they were experiencing.
And that wasn't just here. This was nearly worldwide.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was everywhere.
Like the dark ages of like England happened during this period.
Yeah. And we see it in the Midwestern tribes too. Yeah. You see this not downturn, but like abandoning some of the monumental architecture. It's not that they left exactly. It's just that lifestyle wasn't working anymore given probably the climate change. So they switched. And I think it makes total sense they might have gone back to a hunter-gatherer thing.
Chaco Canyon itself was abandoned between 12 and 1400.
Yep. Same time period. Yeah. And that fits completely with the Yavapai story. So, if you have some oral evidence to kind of back it up too, it makes it even seem more likely.
Yeah, and if their streams dried up, their rivers dried up or something like that, and they just didn't have water, then they probably would have gone somewhere else. Or maybe the climate changed so much, and over the course of 50 to 100 years they just weren't able to grow things that they could, and maybe the animals moved on, or there just wasn't enough to support the lifestyle and the population. So
And I feel like this whole migrating in search of resources idea, that fits with the Hopi story, right? The Hopi, their story is more like they always intended to be where they are. Right. Whereas I feel like this might have just been the natural migration of following resources. Either way, it doesn't matter. The same result happened. Yeah. So that I think that's really cool how that could potentially fit with their oral history as well. Right. And all of those things could have happened too. With a climate change situation like this, the bands of people could have scattered and done different things based on preference or what was easier in their area or, any of those reasons.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for today's show. We did see some other, not really archaeological yet, but historical sites today. Like we mentioned before, we went to Hoover Dam, which was super cool this morning.
We did.
I hadn't been there in probably 25 years, just driven by it. But really cool place to go.
Very cool.
Full of people.
Oh my God, it was so crowded. We actually ended up not walking across the dam because it was so crowded.
Yeah. All right, well, it's time to have another glass of wine and get back on the road. Not in that order.
Definitely not in that order.
Well, kind of in that order, but separated by 12 hours.
Yes, true.
Yeah. All right. See you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Archaeology Show. Feel free to comment and view the show notes on the website at www.arcpodnet.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at arcpodnet. Music for this show is called I Wish You Would Look from the band Sea Hero. Again, thanks for listening and have an awesome day. This episode was produced by Chris Webster from his RV traveling the United States, Tristan Boyle in Scotland, DigTech LLC, Culturo Media, and the Archaeology Podcast Network, and was edited by Rachel Roden.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.